In this demonstration, we're going to start off by first turning on our Developer tab, which is something that does not automatically show up on your ribbon. So if you go to File, and you go to Options, and you go to Customize the ribbon, you should see Developer not checked on the right-hand side. Check it, click OK, and you should now see the Developer has become available to you. Okay, here we're going to go ahead. The first thing we're going to do is unprotect this worksheet. I'm going to review and I'm going to unprotect it. Okay, now I'm going to define some name ranges. Okay, and you do that by going to formulas, and you have a few different choices and a few different ways that you can do this. So I'm going to start off by showing you name manager. If I click on that, you'll see that I already have some things named in here. And when it says define names, this is what they're talking about, that you have a name for either a cell or a range of cells, and then that way you can use the name. It makes it easier when you look at it to understand exactly what you're referencing. So a lot of people like to use names because it makes it very clear then what you're using in the cell and what you're referencing. To create a new one, you can open up the name manager and just click on New, and you can see you could type in whatever name that you want. So for instance, if I wanted to find the name Groupware Subscriptions, I could just type in now Groupware, and you can't have spaces, so you got underscore subscriptions. Okay, and then you will see, then you select what you want to refer to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take out what's in there, and I'm going to show the range C6. So I'm going to find my C6, and I'm going to go through E6, which is actually right here. And so now I have what I want with the name that I want referenced. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And I have created a defined name for Groupware Subscriptions. Okay, I'm going to close the name manager. Now, there are other ways that you also can do this. So again, under formulas, okay, you can do what's called a define name. Okay, so if you click on that box, it does exactly the same kind of thing that we just did with new, but just gave you a kind of a shortcut straight to the box. Or the other option in here is to use create from selection, which I will show you in just a moment. All right, now in the name manager box, we're going to delete, because you can see you can create new ones just like we did. We can also delete one. So I'm going to delete trends by clicking on delete. Okay, I can also use the edit as well. Okay, to do one. So for instance, if I wanted to come up here and say edit this consulting revenues box, if I click on edit, and suppose I want to shorten the name to, instead of consulting revenue totals, I'm just going to put consulting, and I'm going to click OK. I'm now going to close the define name box, which is called name manager. Next thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to apply the define name of a range in a sum formula. So I'm going to go down here to F16. I'm putting in my equal sum, and I'm going to start typing in the SM, and you'll see that it gives me a selection. And then this particular one, I'm on the subscription. So I'm going to double click and it'll put it in there so I don't have to type it all out. Closing parenthesis, hit enter, and you'll see that now it has totaled up that range for me using the defined name. And then I can do the same thing for license and other. Okay, I'm going to select and copy down the pattern, and you'll see here I have subscriptions. Okay, and then it put in subscriptions in here. So I could go up here that way. For this one, I actually want licenses. So I'm going to take off subscription and start with licenses. You'll see that it sees it right underneath here. I have one choice. I'm going to put it in, hit enter. Okay, and I now have the total for licenses. And then I can do the same thing here for other. Okay, and I could select it or just finish typing, hit enter. And I now have the total summed up here for S mail other. Okay, here I'm going to show you what a comment is. You'll notice there's a little red in this corner right here, and when I put my mouse over it, it has a comment in here. Okay, so wherever you would want to put a comment, if you do a right click on top of that box, you will see the ability to insert a comma. Okay, so here I have one already, so we could edit it. But if I went right underneath where there isn't one, you can see I can insert one. And that's how then I could just type into the box that's going to pop up, whatever I would want. And then that creates a comment. Once I've done that, if I go ahead and just click out, then I have that comment available to me, so that I could go back and look at any kind of notation that I might want to have made inside the spreadsheet that way. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I am going to create a macro button. So if I go up here and click on Developer and click under Insert, you'll see the first one top left is a form control, and it's a little button. And if I press down on it, I've got a little plus, and I can click then. Okay, and I can go ahead then and create the button with a macro attached to it that way. Okay, and what this button is going to do is hide the spark lines that way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select hide spark lines, and I'm going to click OK. Now, if I did not already have a macro created, then I could create the macro right then where it said new and just create it right there on the spot. But in this case, I already have one created to hide the spark lines. Alright, I'm going to just spend a second and adjust the size to make it kind of the same as the one that's already there. Okay, I click inside the box, and I can change the name of it to hide spark line. Okay, some hide spark lines. And if I click out, I now have a macro created, macro button. The button was what I created, and the macro was already there in this case. So now I can test it, and it hides the spark lines. Okay, this is a macro button that's already been created. Okay, so now we have our button for view spark lines, but we don't have the macro. So we're going to actually create a macro. So if I go to Developer, I go to Record Macro, and I click on it, you can see that now I can name it, and I'm going to name it View Spark Lines. So I'm going to put in there, actually, let me select that, View Spark Lines. Again, no spaces. Okay, and that's what I'm calling it. It's going to be a Control T for the shortcut. And I'm going to type in a description that says display spark line charts for each row of product revenues. Okay, so I have a description. Okay, once I've done that, then I can go ahead and start recording the macro. Now, what I am going to tell you before I actually start recording, because once I hit that OK button, anything that I click on the screen is going to become part of the macro. So it's really important that whenever you get ready to record a macro, that you know the exact steps that you want to record, or else you're going to have to redo it because of the fact that, you know, again, it's going to record everything you do. Now, you can do some basic editing in the VB view, but you can do some simple stuff pretty easily, but without knowledge of Visual Basic programming, you can't do anything real sophisticated in there. So it's easier if you just create the macro steps exactly like you want to start with, or delete it and then recreate it pretty quickly. All right, so I'm going to click OK. Everything I do now at this point is being recorded as part of the macro. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select this column. Okay, so this is my range G6 through G22. Okay, I'm going to the Insert tab. I'm going to select Sparkline and I'm going to do the line. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick my range that I want it to go in. So this is my data range right here, and my data range is going to be C6 through E22. So I'm selecting that. I now have everything I need to do the Sparkline, so I'm going to click OK. Okay, and once I've finished that, I can now go to the developer and stop the recording. Okay, so everything I did at this point is going to be recorded for that macro. All right, so now what I can do is make sure it works. Okay, so I'm going to run it after I connect it to my View Sparkline button. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hide my Sparklines because I already created that one. I knew it worked. And I'm going to go on this button right here, and I'm doing a right click, and I'm going to assign the macro. And I have one, View Sparklines, and I'm going to click OK. And that's the one I just created. Now I'm going to make sure it works. So I've clicked off of it, and now I'm going to check it, the little hands there, and I can view them, and I can hide them. So both of my macros are working. All right, I'm going to go to the Manchester one. I have no Sparklines here, and I'm going to do the Control T, and I just did the shortcut. And it worked. Control T created the Sparklines on the Manchester worksheet. Okay, I have went to the sales data entry form. The first thing I'm going to do is unlock the cells in ranges C5 through 11. Okay, so I selected them. I'm doing a right click. I go to Format Cells, and I'm going to go to Protection. I'm going to unlock them by unlocks. I'm going to click OK. These are now unlocked so that when I protect the worksheet, these cells will remain unlocked and I can enter things in them that way. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select B5 through C10. Okay, and I'm going to define a name for the range. Okay, I'm going to go to Formulas and define the name by doing Create from Selection. Okay, right now it's saying bottom. I actually want to use the names which are on the left-hand side, so I'm going to make sure the left column is selected, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Okay, now this is a chance to see if you have something come up. It says that the selection is not valid, and there are a couple reasons why. So I wanted to take a moment to be able to show you this and to talk about why this might be happening. Okay, so go ahead and click OK, get rid of the box. And so let me show you. This is a very common mistake when you do selection. The reason being is that if you don't select the column with the name in it as well, it won't show up. So let's go ahead, try it again. This time we are going to do B5 through C10, which is what we want. Now go to Formulas, Create from Selection, you'll see that both were filled in now. Undo the bottom. We do want the left column. Click OK, and you have created the defined name to go with the cell. Okay, you can confirm that by going to Formulas and going to Name Manager. And if you look underneath here, you'll see like product name. So if we go over here and start looking at like contract type, customer name, these are all now listed in here for us. Product names right here. Okay, and they have then the cell reference. They don't have anything in them, which is correct, because right now we don't have a value, but they are connected to the cell, so once they do, it would show up. So that is correct. So again, a common mistake is just to pick the one row. Make sure to pick the names that you want beside it, but it does save you some typing time, which is really nice. All right, so we did a create from selection is what that's called. All right, now we're going to go ahead and assign the clear macro to the clear macro button in C11. So this button right here, if I click on it, I'm going to do a right click again, assign macro. I have a macro already created called clear. I'm going to click OK. And again, I can check it and it clears those cells. So that is correct. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to edit the VB code in the macro clear. If we go to Developer, we go to Macros, we're going to click on Clear, we're going to do Edit, and if I bring up, I'm going to have to move it over a little so you can see, but here is the clear macro programming. That is what is created when we create a macro, and it's done for you automatically. But if you have a small mistake and want to change something without recording it, you can do an edit. And in this case, we're going to change the C11 to C10. So I'm just clicked into it, changed it to a 0 right there. Now I can close this, okay, and it should just clear to C10 instead of C11. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we can run it, and you can see that cleared those cells out. Okay, I'm going to try one more time. This time I'm just going to type in the word test, clear, and again it does clear it out. All right, so next thing we're going to do is create a validation rule. Okay, and we do this, we're going to click on product name. We're going to go up to data. We'll select data validation. Okay, we're going to create a list. Okay, and this time we're going to type in our list by going over here under source, and we're going to start typing in spring groupwear, comma, spring male. Okay, so we're creating a list here. We're going to do spring math genius. Okay, comma, and spring consulting. All right, once I have everything in there that I want to be in my list, okay, then I'm going to click over to the input message. I'm going to give it a title, okay, and my title is product name. Give it an input message. Okay, in this case, it's invalid for the title was product name, and the message will be click the arrow. Click the arrow to select a product. Okay, once I have that in there, then I click OK. All right, now if I do click the OK button, I can come back and edit the validation, but I'm actually going to go ahead then and do a alert as well. All right, in the alert, I'm going to do a stop with the title invalid product. Okay. And I'm going to have an error message that says an invalid product has been entered. An invalid product has been entered. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and click OK. You'll see that I have a title here. If I drop the little arrow down, I have a list of things that I could choose from. Okay, so I have my first data validation. Okay, I could come up here on there. Okay, and you'll see if you go ahead and you right click, that you would have other options as well from there. Okay, but we're going to go ahead next and we're going to create a data validation rule first on the date as well. So let's go down to date of sale first. Okay, and we're going to come up to validation again. So we're going to go to data validation. Okay, and we're going to go over to settings. We're going to do a date. Okay, and we're going to say it has to be greater than or equal to. And then we have to put in the date, 1/2014. Okay, and then we're going to have an input message on this one as well. Okay, which is the title, date of sale. And you got to enter the date of sale. Date of sale. Okay, and then our era would be the stop style. Our title would be invalid date of sale. Okay, and then we're going to have an error message that date of sale must be after 1/1/2014. Okay, go ahead and click OK. All right, so I have them both created. Now, on here, if I want to go ahead and edit something, for instance, if I want to go back and check my product name, I could click on data, go to data validation, and you see that it would bring back up my list. I could edit something in the list if I wanted to that way. And then, you know, that way when I click OK, I would have, say, another row added in there. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to enter the data. So I'm going to pick in my list, I'm going to pick Spring Mail. I'm going to enter Springfield Elementary. Oops. So I'm going to type in Springfield Elementary. Okay, then I'm going to type in the contract type next, which would be subscription. Date of sale. Okay, and I'm going to type in 7/26/2012. And you can see it gives me an error because I put a data validation on it that said it had to be after 2014. So I'm going to go ahead and click on retry, and I'm going to change it to 12 to 14, and it works fine. And then I'm going to put in 50,000. All right, and then I'm not going to enter anything into C10. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and protect the worksheet. Okay, but you can see I put 500,000 in there, and I really actually only wanted $50,000. So I could go back and edit that if I wanted. Again, the formatting is okay on this one, but if you do a right click, you could format the cells if you wanted to change that. Okay, so that allows you to do some formatting on these cells even after you have done some data validation within them. All right, let's go ahead then and protect the worksheet. Protect. You'll see it pop up. We do not want a password. Okay, it will protect them. Leave the default here. Click OK. And now when you try to type something in, it's going to tell you it's protected, but I click OK. If I go up here and say I want to change this again to back to 500,000 or 5 million, I can, because these are unlocked. So I can still make changes into these cells right here. Okay, I am going to go up here. I'm just going to show you here if I do a right click. Okay, again, you'll see how you can come up here and you have the option. You could pick from a drop down list, just change some things up there. All right, so here, let's go ahead, try one last thing. Clear, and it clears everything off.